Anthony R. Vasquez Sr. After I got out of high school, I did my service in the Army. Did my 2-year rotation. I was young, probably wanted to travel around and see the world, which really didn't happen. You know, I was stateside the whole time. Did my basic training in Fort Leonard Woods, Missouri, and also did my advanced individual training there. After 2 years, I decided that was enough and wanted to get out, so I got out. I was working at that time on the reservation for EMS, and was also on a fire department. And I had experience doing what I did. I love helping people, enjoy helping people, and I really felt the need. I also had a friend that was in the reserves that was a medic as well, and he kind of talked me into going in, you know, kind of make extra money. And when you're married and you have a family of 4, it's kind of pretty difficult sometimes. So joined the reserves, did my time, and then when the time came, I put in a special request chit and requested to be deployed. I volunteered for it. I was a reservist for the 8 years, from 2004 till 2012, with one tour from 06 to 07, Operation Enduring Freedom. Of course, all of that was after 9/11, so I felt the need to help, and they were short on corpsmen to help Marines and people in the battlefield or wherever needed, hospitals, stateside, wherever. The active duty part was, you know, like I said, from 06 to 07. The rest of the time was reserve. I was a E4, Petty Officer 3rd Class. My rate was HM3, Hospital Corpsman. Was also a Fleet Marine Force 8404 doc, so I was pretty much attached to a Marine unit. For me, it was a sense of being able to do, sense of pride, being able to help wherever I was needed the most. Different billets that we were able to apply for different areas in the United States that needed assistance for whatever reason. You know, we could deploy as well. You know, taking time aside from our regular jobs, and we would go do different trainings and different deployments for different missions, aiding and assisting for humanitarian efforts or whatever it was, you know. So we enjoyed our job. I enjoyed my job the whole time I was there. It was pretty good in the Navy. I mean, we were very well taken care of. I didn't have any regrets at all. Even at the worst times, I mean, you just suck it up, you know, and leave it in God's hands. At that time, my children were my oldest was only 13, my other son was 12, my daughter was 4 years old, and then about a week before my deployment, my 4th child, Hopi, came along, and she was born, so I got to spend about a week with her before I was deployed. I was gone for a whole year without being able to see my family or anything like that, so we got to talk every once in a while to the family and stuff, and I'm sure that, you know, at that time they didn't really understand what was going on. Now that they're older, of course, they do understand, but it was pretty difficult on everybody. It impacted my family pretty hard. So I have quite a bit of friends that are ex-military that have been deployed that kind of share the same sentiment that I do, and you know, when you needed somebody to talk to, you know, you can always call them up, and vice versa. So even at that, you know, once you've been in, and like I said, we were in then, you know, the GWAT, which the war on terrorism, global war on terrorism, and And we all have the same mentality, whether you're 65 or 55 or 75 years old. You know, we were hard chargers and we understand each other. We have like a different language, I guess. For younger kids, if they're interested in going into the military, to maybe first, you know, try, you know, National Guard, Marine Reserves, Air National Guard Reserves, Navy Reserves, you know, try to be a reservist or a National Guardsman or something like that on a state level first, so that you get your boot camp out of the way and, you know, your advanced individual trainings or your C schools. And then you're really not committed to here nor there. That way it kind of opens your eyes to see if that's what you really want to do. By the time you're done with the National Guard or even boot camp, you're going to know, yeah, this is for me, or what was I thinking, right? It doesn't matter which branch of service you serve, but it's like anything else. You have to give your 100%, and you have to be dedicated to that and really want that. You know, I a lot of times, a lot of reason that I did what I did as I got older, my kids were getting older, I wanted to be a good example for my children, show them you know, honor and respect, and to be a good person, be a good man, you know. Even now, I mean, I've been out already for, since 2012, so going on 10 years. I miss it every day. I mean, you know, now that I'm not working, you know, I feel like there's something I could do. and I really miss that, you know, and it is hard to kind of transition back. And well, once you go through something like that, I think life is different for you. You know, you don't deal with stupidity and lameness and laziness, and you know, you get it done right the first time. Veterans Day to me is a day to give thanks for all our brothers and sisters that you know, pretty much wrote a blank check for their country, for their families, for freedom. People really don't understand how sheltered and how good of a life they really have in the United States, and freedom is, you know, number one, and people, I think, a lot of times take that for granted.
My name is Kylie Luttrell, and I was in the U.S. Navy active duty, and I was an E3.
How long did you serve?
I served 4 years active duty and 4 years reserve.
What were the years that you served?
From 1995 to 1999.
And what inspired you to join?
Well, I joined about a year after I got out of high school, and I knew that the opportunities that I had at that time just weren't a lot, and I was from a small town, and I was the oldest one in my family, and I wanted something different. I wanted something different than what I kind of was being steered towards. So,
were any family members previous military, or?
Some extended family, but just like my stepfather's father, and like my grandmother's uncle, like that kind of thing. Nothing really close.
Was it what you were expecting?
I had a recruiter that kind of just told me how it really was, and not a lot of people get that. And so I didn't pack a whole suitcase. I just took a backpack, and I knew kind of what was going to happen. So,
okay.
And it was really hot. I went to Great Lakes, Illinois, so it was really hot, humid at that time. As hard as you think boot camp is going to be, it's harder. So you're running all the time. And so I I am very short. You probably can't tell on video, but I'm really short. And so I was at the end of the marching, and I had to be a road guard. And so what that means is you run all the way up to the front of the group at every crossing, and you make sure that traffic is stopped, which there's never any traffic, but you have to do this. And then you run up to the back just to catch up, and then you have to do that every time. And I'm really short and I can't run fast. But you have to run all the time. So it's just, it's mental. It's very mental. You have to be, they're just trying to break you and rebuild you to be strong. So that's what I would say, is just be strong. Know it's just mental. You're going to get through it. And you're already sad when you're in boot camp, because you're away from your family, you're away from everything you know, everything's different, people are yelling at you.
Where were you stationed?
So boot camp was there, and then I was stationed in Point Loma, California. So it's kind of outside of San Diego.
And did you go overseas at all?
I didn't. I had shore duty, and I met someone while I was in the military, which is what most people do. And then we had a relationship and got married. And so he was on sea duty and I was on shore duty.
And do you have kids?
I do. I have 3 kids.
Are they serving?
I actually have one who just joined last year, and she is my middle child, and she'll tell you. But she is actually still in school, so she had to sign up for 6 years because she's in nuke school. So she has 2 years of training to do that job, and then she starts her 4 years active duty.
Oh, okay.
So hers is a 6-year enlistment.
And did you say Navy also?
Yes, of course. She thought about other ones, but she went Navy. And so, of course, I'm Navy, and then her father is Navy, and then her grandfather on her father's side, her paternal grandfather, is also Navy. So
cool.
It's a family thing.
How did you feel when she told you that she wanted to do this?
I felt good because we're in a very small town, and there's nothing wrong with the large jobs that are here, but there's other opportunities out in the world. And so I always want my kids to see the world before they decide who they want to be and what they want to be. So,
do you think she'll get a lot of those opportunities by serving?
Yeah, I think so. And she's really excited. She let me know a little while ago that she signed up to be on an all-male sub. So she has to go through an additional training to do that. And so I'm excited for her because I like to do things that are outside the norm, and I like that she also does that. So we're not girly girls. We can be girly, but we like to do things that are challenging. So
very nice.
Yes.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah, it makes you stronger, doesn't it?
Yes. Adversity.
Yes. Yes.
I know my daughter struggled being in boot camp for 9 weeks because she couldn't have her phone. And so kids nowadays, I know I'm talking like I'm so old, but kids are so plugged in right now that it'd be a great challenge to disconnect a little bit if you're going to go off to boot camp, because people are on their phones all the time, even adults. So that's the only advice if you're going off to boot camp. I recommend doing a detox of putting your phone away.
That's really good advice.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Because I think we go to that a lot when we are in situations that are stressful or something. So if somebody's yelling at you,
right,
a lot of people would go straight to their phone to escape.
Escape, yeah. Yeah.
Interesting. Are there any other ways that your service affected your family?
Because of that, I moved back here where that spouse was from. And so we got the really small town feel. But I was close with his family, so the kids grew up with that family, but I grew away from my family because we didn't get back there very often. It's a long drive, a long couple flights, so it pulled me away from my family a little bit.
You changed from regular Navy to reserve? Right?
Inactive reserve, so I was just on call.
And so was that just after the time that you served, and then that's like an automatic thing, or?
Everybody signs up for something different. So mine was just 4 and 4. So 4 years active, 4 years inactive. So
Inactive reserves means that you don't have to go every
right.
so often. You just
Correct.
go if they need you.
Right. So you're just on call. So if war broke out, they would call you. So active reserves is you go the 2 weeks in the summer and 1 weekend a month, I think. I don't know if it's still the same, but.
And you signed up for that at the beginning?
Mm-hmm. From the military, I went over to the Forest Service and I worked there for about 15 years. Because if you go from military service to any kind of federal service, that on the civilian side, then you get extra points for your serving. So it puts you like on the top of all the application lists and all the hiring lists, which is really nice. You get bonus points. And then from there, I realized that I wanted to help people a lot more. So nonprofit is where I love to be.
You've done a lot for your country, haven't you? And now you're doing a lot for your community.
I like to think so.
That's awesome.
It gives you a good compass for, kind of the rest of your life. That's what I think. It gives you some good skills, and they call them knowledge, skills, and abilities, some KSAs. And that kind of steers you and gives you some core things to work for in your future. I want everybody to be proud to be an American, of course.
Yeah.
But I think everybody should have some kind of service, and that way they can, I don't know, I think it just only strengthens you and who you are as a person.
Yeah.
Gives you some individualism too. So you're not just, you don't live at home for 50 years. It gives you a chance to see other ways of life, other people. So, that was a great thing about being in the military is just the diversity. You have people coming from all over the place, and I would have never met them if I just stayed in my little town.
Do you think it builds empathy and compassion?
I think so.
It's the 75th anniversary of women in the military.
Yay.
And how do you feel about that? How do you feel about that? Even the need to have signed anything saying that women can be allowed in the military. How do you feel about that whole situation?
I've always been challenged with the thought that there aren't equal rights in the world, because I know a lot of people struggle with that. And in my brain, I think that girls can do anything boys can do. So we're really strong as women. And so I find that really hard. I mean, women have always served in some capacity, even when they weren't really supposed to. We've always been there. We've always met the challenges. And so I think it's great. I think it's great that, boundaries are pushed, and we're not quite there yet. So you can do most jobs, not every job. And so I think we're getting closer, and I think it's, the rules have changed a lot. I've been out for, 25-ish years or 24 years. And so things have changed a lot even since I've been in. And so the rules are being, changed a lot. And so I think that's important just for everybody. Whoever wants to serve, it shouldn't matter. I think they're aware of things. I think they've put some new laws into effect recently about things like mental health. And I love how the uniforms have changed. So now everybody is the same. You don't have to wear girl uniforms. And it's more just a standard uniform. So I love that. Thank a veteran. They did a lot and they sacrificed a lot, and you'll never know. It was tough while I was in, but I look back and I think I'm really glad that I did that.
Okay, my name's Ray Thiessen. I started surveying in 1961 for Bureau of Land Management in Wyoming. We were surveying section lines. It was land surveying, not construction. When I went into the Army, it was construction surveying mainly. I was 22 years old when I was drafted out of Montana, and went and had basic training in Fort Ord, California. And right straight from there, I was assigned to an engineer outfit as a surveyor at Fort Polk, Louisiana. I served from November of 63 to November of 65. I got my draft notice on November 22nd, 1963. It said, "Greetings from the President," but that's when that's the day Kennedy was shot. And that's the day I got my draft notice. When you're drafted, you usually go into the infantry, but with my background, I guess they were wanting surveyors, so that's the way. And right at the same time, there were 3 or 4 other surveyors that come into this company I was in. I was in a group headquarters, and we had 2 battalions of engineers under us, like 5,000. And then after a little over a year at Fort Polk, then that's when Lyndon Johnson said, "If you elect me, I won't send my boys to Vietnam." He wasn't hardly installed, and he sent we were packing to go to Vietnam in early '65. And we were the first ones, first troop ships into Vietnam. And it took two troop ships. The first one went dead in the water, and we were dead in the water for 3 days. And we were eating cold cuts. There was no food, no refrigeration, no nothing. They towed us back to Midway, another ship, and we got on another troop ship and went on our way into Vietnam then. And we were the first troop ships in there, or troop ship, put it that way. And there were 2,500 of us on this particular troop ship. The special forces were there and some Marines up north. That was it. We landed at Cameron Bay, and there was nothing there, and we improved the bay with piers and stuff, whatnot, so that other troop ships could come in and started an air base. So it became a major air base right there too, to fly in and out. R&R center for in-country R&R. Been advisors in there since the 50s, right after the French got out. Our offices, because I was in the headquarters, we had a bird colonel was in our company, plus 2 light colonels and 4 majors, a whole bunch of captains, lieutenants. We had a fixed-wing airplane on a helicopter, and just a few enlisted men, we called enlisted, below the sergeants. And the offices were French buildings, and we had tents set up behind them. I was going different places surveying. They'd fly us in. I'd go by helicopter sometime by fixed wing. Would take me into a special forces camp and survey out airstrip so they could bring fixed wing in to supply them and you had to have enough, make sure they had enough room to land and take off. Then I was TDY to what they called Nha Trang. It was about 30 miles away. It was on the South China Sea also, and I surveyed a cantonment there and started laying out the buildings. It was like an R&R center plus for troops to come into. One thing, the surveyors are the first ones in before anybody else. We have the plans of what they want to do, and then we lay out the buildings, whatever. One of my jobs was a 7-mile pipeline for JP4, which is jet fuel, to that air base that we're building. And that was up through the jungle, had to survey 7 miles. In 1965, they were spraying the Agent Orange, which was a spray chemical. They'd spray it and the leaves would just fall off the trees, and we didn't even know what they were doing. But back in 65, it was straight. They weren't cutting it with anything, and then in late 65, they started cutting it so it wasn't so strong with whatever else, however they do it, with more water or whatever. Take, for instance, that pipeline. See, it was on either side of it. See, that was the main jet fuel line. You couldn't have people sneaking in on it and blowing it up. So it was on both sides of it. There was nothing, and you didn't have to bulldoze them or nothing. It just knocked the leaves off and killed the stuff almost quick. Drinking the water was the main thing. We'd have to get water out of the little streams while we were surveying, and we'd just have a tablet to put in it, but that was just to kill the bugs. And then I come down, like in 2001, I had prostate cancer, and then right after that they discovered that I had diabetes and peripheral neuropathy, and it all was related back to Agent Orange. And nobody in my family had cancer or diabetes, so it wasn't hereditary type thing. And it took them a few years. See, when I had the cancer, they didn't recognize it yet. It was a few years later they recognized it, and then I started compensating me for that. So, and it's a constant thing to keep going to get 100%. So. Got out as a Spec 4, Specialist 4th class, that is. Same as a corporal. To come back to the States to get out, it was Thanksgiving Day in Saigon, and I got back to the States the day before. And they wouldn't let us out because that was a holiday. Had to take a day off and then come back the day after Thanksgiving to get out. And so I think if we'd have been armed, we'd have made sure we got out the day we got there. I had friends that I worked with in Wyoming. They transferred to Arizona BLM, and they had a job waiting. I went to work the January 1st of 1966, so I had 1 month off. And out of Phoenix, that is where I worked out of, but come to Safford every winter, and then up north in the summer is the way we worked it. And the first, in 66, surveyed all the way down the river for government parcels within the river area. So we put in the BLM brass caps, and then out in the wilderness over the whole north part of Mount Graham, surveyed it with BLM, and all these mountains around, out in the flats too. But then in 1969, I got on with Phelps Dodge and worked for them. Then in 1984, I became a registered land surveyor. It was a good experience.
And that's where it started. Watching First Blood, grew up in Safford, Arizona. I always used to kid with the people because John Rambo of First Blood, he grew up down the street in Bowie, and we're Safford, so we were pretty close relatives. When you saw the background and where they were filming the movie, well, you looked at Mountain Graham, kind of a fitting environment. So I went down, probably within a week, joined the Army. After, my parents basically both stated that you need to go to EAC first, then after that you can join the military. So after I graduated from high school, I went to 2 years at Eastern Arizona College, got the associate's degree. At that time, the associate's degree was kind of a big thing, and now I joined the Army right after that. I wanted to go to 82nd Airborne, I wanted to be gung-ho and everything else. They said I was going to Europe. And I was mad. I went to the drill sergeant, why did I get this? And they told me, son, you don't understand what you got. You got the golden package. And once I got over there, I realized I did. I extended over there. I never did any service time on U.S. soil. I was always overseas. And I saw the world twice over. Been to, 2 different wars and 3 different campaigns. So yes, I traveled all over Europe. I think at my age, at 21 years old, I went to 25 different countries. And I went from Flensburg to Fusen to Fulda and down to the Gap, so on all 4 sides. I got out, waited 6 months, joined the National Guard. At the same time, I used my GI Bill to go to Arizona State University. So my dad gave me an option. He goes, you got an option, son. You go to Arizona State, I'll help you out. If you go anywhere else, you're on your own. So that was my option. So that's what I did. I went to Arizona State. But I still stayed in the Guard and Reserves, and that's where I fought all my wars, through the Guard and Reserve, not regular Army. Which I think it worked out best because you had more mature people running the show instead of having young West Point officer types or gung-ho types. With the Guard, you had common sense people in there in all positions, and they're all specialty of what they do on the outside. And the first time I went with an engineering battalion. But in the Army, you just get trained and go and get on a truck and you're in charge. These guys were professional drivers on the outside of CDL. They drove from all 4 corners of the United States, so they know how to drive, know how to chain things up. So I was getting taught by them. It was just absolutely common sense everywhere. Iraq, Desert Storm, the first one was Kuwait, then all over Iraq. In fact, when I was in Saudi Arabia, I went all over Saudi Arabia more than the Saudi Arabians would travel their own country. So I got to go to Kuwait City. I got to go through all the oils that are still burning out there when they blew up all the oils. And we didn't know it, but that oil soot gets in the air and you don't really know it until we got to the Kuwaiti Olympic Center. That's where we camped out in. And we took off our shirts. You could see the soot from your neck up, but you couldn't tell because everybody was the same. It was just a little bit darker complexion. Once you took it off, you knew, like you had makeup on, everybody. So you're breathing that stuff in too. But that's all the oils and you burned everything out there. I remember that. That's my second campaign. That's when you see everything. That's when we got blown up a couple of times, shot at. for military service or the things I did over there, I got handpicked to go to Washington, D.C. So I got picked to go, and I started meeting all the Medal of Honor people, and I met Colin Powell on the steps, Gary Sinise when they have the Veterans Day there, and the whole big show in Washington, D.C., sitting on the footsteps. So that was interesting there. My regular Army time, no combat, but I picked up all my awards. I got my EIB, which is called Expert Infantryman Badge, which is harder to get than a combat infantryman badge because you actually got to train for it and go through all the different lines to get it. You got to do a 12-mile ruck in 3 hours. You got to shoot good. You got to land nav day and night. You got to go through all these little sequence of events. If you miss one little thing, you get flunked right out fast. I went to Ranger School. I went through all that. You know, I remember I lost 32 pounds. I came back, my clothes were hanging on my first sergeant. My God, what did they do? They didn't feed you. They cut it in fours, and that's all you had. And they'll just run you. The whole purpose of it is to get you basically tired and hungry and still try to keep your wits about yourself and make decisions. And they'll do it in the middle of the night. You'll be in a brainstorm, coming up, stop, you're next. And you got to figure out where you left off on the map and start going and trusting the troops. Now, one thing I learned in the military, the best place you need to be smart at is land navigation. You can be a West Point lieutenant, all that fancy education, whatever. If you can't land nav, they think you're the worst piece of crap out there. Especially, they got to walk an extra step for your mistake. If you get a guy out there who's from Kentucky woodlands, whatever, backwood, and he can land nav perfectly, that guy's got a PhD. I went through a West German Ranger School, which I got selected over there, and I got traded for the German Army, so I got to go down in Altenstadt and Schongau, which is basically right under Hitler's Eagle's Nest building there, and beautiful area to train in. Because when I was training in that area with them, I was looking for Julia Andrews, the sound of music, because that's what you were in. You're in the Bavarian Alps, running up and down the hills. It's beautiful. Those courses were 15 kilometers long, all night long. You won't get back till the next morning. I got to see best of both worlds. I got the chance to go the military route. I had the college route. A lot of people only see one of them or none of them. So I got to see the regular, the opportunity for my age to being that young and get to see all the both worlds, and it was fun. If I would have changed anything, probably would have left when I assigned the Ranger unit and all that, so I can go full-time Ranger and Airborne. If a kid studies the test, gets a high score, he got a lot of opportunity. He can go to officer school, he can go to higher special operations schools, he can go to advanced training, like aviation, Navy, avionics, all that kind of stuff. So that they need to study the test. Oh, I feel good being a veteran. I like being a veteran. I mean, I got to see the world. I never would have saw that when I was growing up. I went everywhere. And plus, being a veteran was important to me too. I got the chance to do all kinds of cool stuff in the military that no one else would get to do. I did it, and I ended up as a E7 promotable platoon sergeant.
Hello, my name's Tom Sanchez. I was in the U.S. Navy Seabees. I was a heavy equipment mechanic, but I was an E3 when I got discharged.
What inspired you to join?
The draft. My lottery number was in the top 10, so I figured, I don't want to go to Vietnam. So I ran down and joined, and I was put in the Seabees, which we were in Okinawa, ready battalion to go to Vietnam, and did all the training and stuff, but we were never called over. So, my brother was in the Navy. He did riverboats. in the Delta and stuff, and I always admired him. He was a Mr. Popular, Mr. Everything in school. So I said, okay, maybe it'll help me. I started out in San Diego. Then we got orders to go I went to Fort Hueneme, California. And from Fort Hueneme, we went over to Okinawa, where we were Ready Battalion. And from Okinawa, I went to Spain and spent about 13, 14 months in Spain, which was awesome. Well, Okinawa was awesome too. And then from there, I went to the Panama Canal Zone and chased giant lizards. I have pleasant memories of all of those because of the different experiences. Even like in Panama, I heard that iguanas were a main delicacy. So one day I went out in the jungle looking for an iguana when this dinosaur jumped out of a tree and thought I was lunch, not him. And I'm glad I did track in high school because I think I outran him. But just a lot of fun experiences that are offered to people that may never ever get to see different countries and different cultures. And like I said, before I joined, I was limited to New Mexico and Arizona, and only parts of that. And it did broaden my horizon. I guess that was the first time military conflicts were televised, so everybody saw what was going on, and it was kind of scary. And Mom always watched the TV. And kind of hard to be young and leave home for the first time. When I joined, I never went past Phoenix and never went past Rio Dozo, New Mexico. So it gives them a chance to get out and cut the strings from your parents and where you're going.
Totally different perspective.
Oh yes.
Did you, when you had students or ex-students join, did you worry about them, or you felt good about them?
I worried about some. I had a young man, and I won't mention his name. I used to read Where the Red Fern Grows every year for 34 years. I loved the book. I thought it showed a lot of. And when he was overseas in Iraq, he found a hard copy of the Red Fern book. And I have always used paperbacks. And he did a testimony on the inside for me, and kind of made me feel good.
That's so cool.
It just, and I've had a lot of people come back and from over there and with positive attitudes. My son was in the Coast Guard, and he was I can't use that word. He had a very poor attitude toward the world, and he joined the Coast Guard. And they made a man out of him. They made him respect people and not be so cocky. And well, the Coast Guard actually is more of a they are our international waters. They protect our coastlines. I found out that a lot of the major lakes in the United States are guarded by the Coast Guard. So, they play that important part about Mexico and the Gulf and drug trafficking and just a lot of the safety of the borders of the United States. Well, I got put in the Seabees because I redid a motorcycle engine one time, and they figured I was a mechanic. So I really learned how to work on big diesels and the dangers of a big diesel, where they could kill you very quickly. But not only did we get to work on them, we had to go test them out to make sure they were functioning better. And that was usually a lot of fun. I think I rode a Jeep because I was playing like I was at the dunes, and took us all night to get it back together. But I had a good time. A lot of friends, a lot of people I remember, and that's what it's about, is enjoying what you're doing and the friends that you acquire. They can be lifelong. After I got out, I went and worked construction for a company that was working for PD. And after we broke from lunch, we were working on the big tunnel that they were constructing back then. And it was like 300 feet to the inside and about 38 feet on the outside they were backfilling. And my safety belt broke. And I was told I had to find a different kind of job that wasn't so strenuous. So I became a school teacher and enjoyed every 34 years of it. So I think, my life was transformed over to a thing where I felt I did more for people than if I would have still been working construction. I had a greater influence on people's lives, and it was very heartwarming. Today the kids go into colleges and sometimes they don't know what they really want. And when they get their bachelor's degree, it wasn't what they really wanted to do. It's like me, I thought, I never thought I was going to become a teacher. Heaven forbid. But I think it was one of the best things I ever did in my life. Well, I tried to talk my granddaughter, who just turned 21, when she graduated, she was 18, going on 19, and I encouraged her to go into the Air Force, just because I think they have better food.
David Rickard, Army Staff Sergeant.
What year did you join?
I joined my sophomore year of high school, which would have been 87, maybe? 1987?
Where did you go to school?
Eureka, Montana. So I joined my junior year. Junior and senior year, I was National Guard, and then graduated and went straight active. Initially, it was just something to do and money. I was in high school and needed a job, and I didn't want to deal with lumber mills, or I couldn't really have like an actual job because I was in school. National Guard was 2 weeks a year and 1 weekend a month. So I was like, yeah, I'll just do that. Just enjoyed it so much that when I graduated, I was like, let's just do it full time. And I went active.
How long did you serve?
24 years. Well, because I went at such a young age, I think I grew up fast. Made a lot of mistakes, learned a lot of lessons that I probably wouldn't have learned if I wasn't in that position. But it taught me the self-confidence. It taught me that I can persevere anything. It's just a mindset of how do you address it and make it work. So, it took a lot of teamwork, just a lot of characteristics that makes me who I am today. So I think it was a good move.
Yeah, so those are all very good skills, right?
Yeah, because it's just, those are, there's some skills that you don't necessarily learn out here, I mean, nowadays, a lot of people are just like, I don't like this job, I'm quitting. Well, when you sign a 4-year hitch, you can't exactly just quit. You're stuck there for the 4 years, so you need to make it work. So, I mean, like I said, it just taught me a lot of things, and a lot of things that are lacking nowadays.
Where were you stationed?
All over the United States. I was sent to Germany, South Korea. I visited North Korea. That was not fun. So Germany, South Korea, pretty much the States. I was deployed to Iraq for one tour. I was in Iraqi Freedom, which was like not the initial war, but like maybe the third campaign in, I guess. I was a staff sergeant, so I had a responsibility for 8 more lives besides mine. You know, and if anything would have happened to any one of them, that's something I would have to live with. You know, and it's not, there's only one other time that I came close to having to deal with that. And it's not a good feeling, because you're the one's going to be having to explain, why did you let this soldier die, or how did this happen? And you better have a good justification. You better have a really good reason why.
Did you, at those moments, did you question what you were doing there? Did you question the opportunity that you took to join the military or anything like that?
No, I did it willingly.
Just move forward.
And when I win, I knew there's a chance that I could die. I could make that ultimate sacrifice. But like I said, I did it because I know there's someone out there who didn't want to do it. I know there's someone that just, nah, I ain't doing it. And
Or
someone
maybe
had
wanted
to do
to,
it.
but was not able to.
True, yeah.
Yeah.
Because that's like my father. He tried to join 4 times. And every time he tried to join, he had a broken something, leg, arm, finger, I don't know. He was always hurt, and they just wouldn't take him. So I guess my father tried to follow in his father's footsteps, and in turn I did. I don't know.
Would you have changed anything about your time in the military?
Well, going back about 30 years, might have changed a few things I've done. But then again, those things are what makes me who I am today. So if I change those, then I change who I am today, and I don't want to do that. So no, I think I just take those mistakes and learning lessons and roll with them.
What would you like people to know about the military?
The military isn't for everyone. And there's nothing hard, nothing bad about people who can't do it or don't want to do it. It's a lot of sacrifice. It's a lot of late nights. It's a lot of early mornings. And depending on the job you choose, there might be a lot of deployments involved. But if you're going to choose the military, know that you're doing it for the right reasons, and know that those reasons are what's going to push you through and keep your mindset where it needs to be, to where you decide, I'm going to stay the full duration, or I'm going to get out early and leave. But yeah, just it's fun. It's definitely a journey. You will learn a lot about yourself, and you will definitely overcome trials within yourself that only you can deal with. But it's all a part of the growing process. So if you're going to join for the right reasons and be committed. Don't just join to slough off, and because you're a team and you're only as strong as your weakest link. That's where my pride comes from, knowing I did my job, knowing that when I left, there was someone there to fill my shoes. And I knew that my team was a good team. So the next sergeant that came in and took my spot, I knew his job wouldn't be that difficult. He just had to pick it up and roll with it. I went in as armor. I spent 4 years armor. And I got to thinking, what am I going to do on the outside? So I chose a different job and went network information technology. So now I have computer knowledge, I have network knowledge, and I have stuff that I can actually use on the outside.
How do you feel about being a veteran?
I feel good. I know that I did my part. I know I served my country, and I know I did it for the right reasons. And I know the sacrifices I made weren't in vain. So I'm pretty proud of that I lasted 24 years and that I achieved the rank I did.
Did you have kids?
Yes, I have 2 beautiful daughters in Oklahoma.
Are they going to serve? Are they serving or?
No, they're going to serve a different way. They're registered nurses. My oldest one is 25 and she's a registered nurse. My youngest one hasn't finished high school yet and she's already a registered nurse.
Wow.
And she plans to go to college to further that more into the medical field. They're good kids. I'm very proud of them both.
Cool.
But like I said, God's blessed me with a good career, a good life. So I wouldn't change anything.